Well, hello once again. This is a Doctor of Digital podcast, and welcome. I got a special guest today. This is Karl Swanepoel, and he is from Revolancer, CEO and founder. Let me get that right. And if you listen to the end of the program, of course, as always, we got some free offers for you, so stick around. Now, I really wanted to get Karl on the program, of course, because if you can't believe what his program is and his background, that's why I got to get him on there. So listen to this. Check this out. He is the founder and CEO, of course, and his platform helps independent professionals and freelancers barter their skills to build their service online. Now, if that's not the way to build a business, I don't know what is. So I wanted to get him on the program. And at 15, he was the youngest ever brand ambassador for Britain's largest business conference, the Business Show. And at 15, so why wait around? At 15, he also did his first exit at 15 years old. So got to get him on the program and wanted to make sure to welcome him. So Karl, thanks for coming on the program and taking some time out. How are you today? And tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
That,
Yeah, so essentially, I got into entrepreneurship at quite a young age. I started by trying to make some money online when I was 13. Figured out I could do some freelancing. Then realized that the existing freelancing platforms just weren't really working right for freelancers, and they were
sure.
quite outdated in my view. So then I actually started my first freelancing platform when I was 15, and I grew that to a few thousand users, all while spending nothing on advertising,
Okay.
and ended up having to sell it just before my 16th birthday after a few months of running it. Because I was too young to have a PayPal account, and they kept locking my accounts. So that was a barrier that I kept hitting. Yeah.
So this is pretty interesting. So you've been around for a while, so you're past 15. So what would you say are some of the biggest changes? Because you make a really valid point here. A lot of these things are outdated, and I notice there's a lot of things that could be updated. So what sort of changes have you seen in your recent experience, and what can you tell our listeners about?
Sure. I mean, one really big change that I've seen between being 13 and now 10 years later was that back when I was building my first websites, the majority of people were browsing the web on a desktop computer. Whereas, today it's predominantly mobile, and it
Mm-hmm.
used to be something like, 80, 90% desktop, and now it's reversed. And I
Yes.
saw that kind of happen, over actually quite a short period of time. So that was a big change, and I think something really important to keep in mind is that the online landscape is constantly changing. So there are always different social networks that people use.
Mm-hmm.
Different ways that people can communicate with one another online. So it's important to kind of be adaptive, but also realizing that every time something changes, there are opportunities. Like, for example,
Yes.
the iPhone launches. Now suddenly there are so many app-based businesses, which are now possible, which weren't before. As just kind of an example of that. That's a little bit before my time, though, in terms of starting businesses and so on. But I think that's a pretty key example. And now today, I guess a lot more topical example would be ChatGPT.
Hmm. Would you say that those are some of the hot growth areas, or what kinds of things can you identify? I mean, people are talking about there's always change, so that's a really good point. And what would you say are some of the hot growth areas or things that should people be looking at, especially in the space that you're in?
Oh, I'd say absolutely AI. So,
Yeah.
ChatGPT generating kind of written content, but then also there are other AIs that generate images, graphics, art, all kinds of different things. So this is a really a hot area at the moment. I mean, I have my personal kind of beliefs about
Mhm.
about how AI is going to impact the world in the short term, and how that might be different from what the media thinks. But I think it is definitely impacting the world already in a lot of different ways. And namely, software such as ChatGPT now unlock a whole number of different possibilities and different businesses that people can start. So I'd say just this area generally is definitely one to keep an eye on.
Could you give us some examples of how AI is used? Because yes, there's all kinds of speculation at this point. So what kinds of ways are you using it in terms of growing, especially growing a business?
Sure. Well, you can use it to essentially save time. The way to think about it. Something like ChatGPT it's a tool. It's not perfect, but it's a tool you can use.
Mm.
So, for example, you can get it to draft an email for you. Just give it a couple of bullet points. Now suddenly you have an email or website copy, or whatever you need essentially. So it's a very useful tool. We use it every now and then at Revolancer, although I do think that in a lot of cases you kind of need an expert, because ChatGPT writes very confidently about topics, but it can also sometimes write things that are absolute nonsense. And if you don't know much about a topic, it can be harder to spot that.
Yeah. So if you're a typical business, well, maybe you can give us an idea. Who is your typical client and what kind of businesses do you deal with primarily? But what kinds of things would you recommend that a business owner be thinking about, especially in terms of the changes and especially in terms of things like the hot growth areas with AI? Because there's a big buzz on that right now.
It's something to be very mindful of. I think it is going to change a lot of things. I think it's going to automate some things, some businesses, some jobs. Which and that kind of, and I think that's going to increase quite rapidly as well. So I think what I would definitely recommend to any business owner is
Yep.
looking to see how they can make use of tools like ChatGPT and integrating that into their business workflow. So I'd say that's quite key. I think sticking your head in the sand about this is not necessarily the right approach and might actually be a bit dangerous.
Mm. Well, yeah, I'm going to say I'm a business owner. I'm going to hold on a second. All this technology and AI, and I'm a little leery of it and what have you. So, could you explain a little bit about not only what you would do and help a business, but what kind of expertise would you bring to the table in order to assist them, especially those who are a little bit concerned about things like AI and technology?
Sure. Well, I mean, as a Revolancer, we kind of connect different freelancers with one another to exchange services, and also freelancers with small businesses. I know that many of our freelancers have been starting to use different automated tools to, make their own lives easier, to be more efficient in work they deliver to clients. So that's really fantastic. Um, but I would say, um, for a business owner, it depends what you're doing exactly, but I don't think it could hurt to learn a little bit more about something like ChatGPT or the other tools that are available now, and just seeing if they can be useful to you in any way, because chances are they can be useful to you in some way. Like, let's say you need to write like
Mm.
about something you know a lot about. Instead of writing, I don't know, 1,000, 2,000 words, you can just write 100 words, just explaining to ChatGPT exactly what it is you need to write, and then it can write it for you. Um, so there's a very good chance that some part of your life can be made easier by a tool like that. And there's a pretty good chance that more than just one tiny area of your life can be made easier by a tool like that.
Can you walk us through a little bit about what your company actually does and give us a typical example so that you can understand what the service is so you can get grasp of what you actually do?
Yeah, sure. So essentially, we're a platform for freelancers to exchange services and also to connect with clients. So essentially, if I'm building you a website, and you want to do some design for me in return, for
Mm,
example,
yeah.
we facilitate that as a platform. We also kind of enable people to showcase their work, and then also connect with clients directly on the platform.
So there are some services like that that are out there. I said, and what would you say are the advantages, some of the key differentiators between a person who has a temporary job or a temporary work for someone to do and what you offer?
Sure. Well, essentially, it depends what people are looking for. So the freelancers on our platform will typically have a few different clients. So they won't kind of, work full time with one client. They'll
Mm,
have maybe 10, 50, however many, it varies, but have a number of different clients delivering individual projects on. And the real big advantage of doing that is it unlocks quite a lot of freedom, because essentially even if it's just you are essentially running a small business, kind of a
Yeah.
small agency, and it means you can pick your own hours, you can choose where you want to work from. There's a lot of kind of freedom and flexibility that comes with that kind of lifestyle, which many people enjoy. And in fact, the trend is definitely going in this direction, because McKinsey predicts that by 2027, more than half of the US workforce will be freelancers. And already today, a third of the global workforce are freelancers. So it's a trend that's been scaling quite rapidly and will continue to do so.
And just thinking aloud here, do you think that the pandemic had something to do with it? It seems like it, because it makes remote work that much easier, and it seems like people are embracing that concept more.
Yes, absolutely. And I think very, very true point. The other thing is that the pandemic kind of made people, I think, be a bit more bold. So, for example, going into freelancing, when you currently have a stable career, is risky, right? But I think the pandemic kind of just reminded people of the fact that, well, actually, there's a lot of risk. You never know what's going to happen, and if there's something you really want to do, then you might as well take the plunge. So I think that helped a lot.
It makes a whole lot of sense. So, for those people that are interested in what they're doing and what you're doing and the kinds of ways that you can connect people with the services that are provided on your platform, how do they get a hold of you, and what would be the best way to get in touch to seek your assistance?
Sure. So if you're interested in Revolancer, then you can just Google that or go to revolancer.com. If you'd like to get in touch with me, then probably LinkedIn is the best place. So if you just look my name up on LinkedIn, I'll come up.
Fantastic. Well, I appreciate your time. Thanks for being on the show today. We learned a lot. And of course, things are changing and changing very rapidly. And somebody like Karl is somebody that you need to know. So thanks for coming on the show, Karl. Appreciate your time.
Well, thank you very much. Really enjoyed it.
You bet. And if you listen to the end of the program, of course, you get a free complimentary website analysis, and you just get in touch with me if you wanted to do that, and also do some custom software, anything related to the internet, because the slogan is I simplify the internet. And if you have not picked up a copy of the novel, by all means, pick up that's as well. Till next time, this is Dr. Digital signing off. Deus Volt.